Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. We have some more folks that are trickling in. We'll get started in the next minute or so.
Morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. You're East Coast, probably around the lunch hour. Thank you for joining, everybody.
Eh, All right. Okay, so I'll go ahead, stop sharing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am Ariel Balagoon. I am the founder of Infinitely Elevated, and we have an amazing webinar for y'all today. We have Humanizing Revenue Operations, Why Empathy and Efficiency Must Coexist. I have the amazing Colette Montini here with me today. She is our guest speaker. I wanted to just do a quick overview of what we'll be doing today during this webinar. Again, welcome. We are going to have amazing discussion between Colette and myself, but this is for everybody. So please engage with us, ask questions in the chat, and we'll be able to go over them as we're kind of proceeding through the webinar, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. Again, this is an open forum to ask questions, and we just want to say thank you for investing an hour of your time with us. So we want to make sure that you get as much out of it as possible. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Colette. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. She is the founder of Empathy Elevated, but I want to make sure that she has an opportunity to introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about how she empowers tech professionals to elevate their empathy to accelerate their careers. Oh, you're on mute.
I was trying not to distract from your opening. Thank you, Ariel, for having me on today for this webinar as a guest speaker. Thank you to our guests who are spending an hour with us. As Ariel mentioned, I am the founder of Empathy Elevated. It operates right now as a Substack, but looking to expand upon that in the future. I focus specifically with tech folks, as that has been my industry, predominantly working in SaaS for about a decade and data analytics, more recently in sales ops. And thanks again to Ariel for having me. She's the CEO of Infinitely Elevated. It wasn't lost on us that the founding of our companies has a very similar name. That was purely coincidental. Uh, yeah, and to introduce her to, she's a career coach, consultant for those of us that are seeking to level up in our revenue operations careers, search of new opportunities. I've been connected with Ariel just through mutual connections over the past year that came out of a revenue operations conference that I attended in May of 2024. And she has an incredible wealth of experience and information to share with you. So I'm happy to collaborate with her today to share that with you all.
All right, thank you so much, Colette. And there are more people joining us, so you are in the right place. This is the webinar, Humanizing Revenue Operations, Why Empathy and Efficiency Must Coexist. We just finished our introduction, and so now we're going to get right into the meat of things. And let's just start with the real. So what does humanizing revenue operations really mean in your day-to-day work? So that is the question that's going to anchor us in our discussion. And again, if you are just joining us, feel free to drop any questions you have into the chat. We'll kind of answer them as we go, and there will be time for a Q&A at the end. But back to the question, what does humanizing RevOps actually mean in your day-to-day work? I'm going to kind of start with a little story, and then Colette, I want you to share a little bit more of your expertise. Um, so I have a backstory of being in tech for over a decade, managing cross-functional relationships, including executive relationships, systems, processes, go-to-market projects, and I earned the reputation of making complex things simple. So in the creation of Infinitely Elevated, and witnessing the back-to-back layoffs in 2023, I really wanted to find a way to help motivated professionals elevate in this job market, from grappling like resume tailoring and how do you optimize your LinkedIn and job search strategy, as well as interview preparation, or even navigating how to position yourself for a promotion without feeling you have to walk on eggshells. So now for me, humanizing revenue operations means in my current day to day as a career coach, it means starting with the question, how can I help you? And how can I meet you where you are? So I wanted to just share that little backstory. But Colette, can you tell us a little bit more about bringing empathy in your day-to-day work? And you're on mute.
I'm just going to stay off mute. That's going to be easier.
Okay.
We'll just do that. Yeah, so with day to day, I mean, humanizing RevOps, I mean, let's be real, being in RevOps, sales ops, marketing ops, the related fields, there are fires day in and day out. It is the nature of our work, especially depending on which area that you are in. So, what does it mean about humanizing RevOps? eh, like at the end of the day, something that I always keep in mind, and this is something that a very wise sales leader told me one time several years back, that we have to remember we are all people. We're all doing the best we can. And to take that breath before you send that email, remembering
Mhm.
that the numbers that you are about to present in a report or dashboard or for a target or KPI is impacting somebody's livelihood. If you are designing a territory, which I'm in the midst of right now, as we are approaching the beginning of the fiscal year at my company, we have to remember that in designing this, we are designing their day to day in terms of maybe travel away from their families or the time that they're going to be at home or where they are going to be maybe hitting a few places at once on their travels to be most efficient and make the best of their time. Revenue operations in itself, it is a data focused job. We like numbers, we like data to back up what we do. We are working in systems, but at the end of the day, it is a people oriented job. You cannot separate the two. And that's what humanizing RevOps means to me. And we'll be going into more of that with examples today. Uh, on that note, with that, with the people aspect, right? You have to be able to empathize and understand people. So let's go ahead and dig in a little bit more at that, Ariel, just in terms of, and I'll start by asking you, and I can add some of my feedback, but what are,
Of course.
yeah, just, and I have quite a bit on here, but anything you can think of in terms of best practices for embedding empathy into our processes, reporting, dashboards, anything that you've seen out in the field.
Start with the people. So ask questions. That was one of the things that I love doing, like kind of having an investigative moment around anyone who would be impacted by the work that I'm doing. So it's, is it a process? Is it a tool? Is it a system? Is it whatever the thing is in RevOps that is going to drive human behavior? We want to make sure that we're asking the people that it directly impact. And so that meant I needed to go to some of those hardcore sellers and ask them, what do you love about this process? What do you not love about it? What would you like to see improved? And how can I help you do your job better, more efficiently? What am I missing? What is the data not telling me that I should be considering? And so that is things that I would regularly do, so that we're not recreating the work that we are already supposed to kind of align um, and kind of rally behind to meet, KPIs and other objectives for companies.
Yeah. And I'm gonna, yeah, thanks, Ariel. I'll go ahead and give my take on it too. I'm in the day to day with this. And right after, I just give a little bit of background and examples here. I do believe we have a poll that we're going to post to the group here. So we'll make sure to get that in just to get your input as well. But empathy in terms of it showing up and being embedded in part of your processes, reports, and dashboard, back to the point, you really cannot separate the two. It shows up, it has to show up in everything we do. You have to know the who and the why behind what you are going to display, and then the processes built around that and designed to show that data. Yeah, you have to know the underlying process, which takes a certain degree of active listening, which requires empathy to really like listen in and understand the stakeholder pain points. As Ariel was
Mhm.
saying, right? Understanding the processes, what you like and you dislike about it. You have to think about your audience. Who is your audience with this process, with the data, or with the dashboard? Are you presenting this to senior executives who are going to want more of the 30,000 foot view? Or are you going to be presenting this to other stakeholders internal to your team? Are you presenting it to sales reps who probably care more about their day to day and their progress against quota for the month? It's something in terms of listening to the needs and embedding it. A good example I had of something way back in the day, I was building a dashboard looking to get feedback. And I guess it's not way back, it's a few years now. I was trying to get feedback just on the general UX of it. I knew the data was there. I knew the KPIs were there, but I was looking to see, can we make this easier? Can we make this designed? And we were talking, and after about 10 minutes, and me just really actively listening and letting the conversation flow, he revealed that, well, actually, the colors don't make a big difference to me. I'm colorblind. And
Mhm.
with that, I mean, it was quite literally in the program I was working with. I was able to just switch the colors to be colorblind friendly, colors that would be easier and gradients and patterns that he could better define. It was so quick to do on my end, but I wouldn't have been able to get there if I had not empathized or taken the
Mhm.
time to listen and to build that into the reporting infrastructure we were doing.
Yeah, I had a similar example to that as well. Was a VP or excuse me, SVP at the time. He's like, I love what you were saying, but I couldn't read it, you know? And so now I said, are there particular colors? Because there's, differences in color blindness as well. And so that was education on my end. So are there certain colors that we should just avoid altogether? Guess what? I avoided those altogether. And then I did an extra step to communicate cross-functionally, like, hey, when we make dashboards or spreadsheets or anything, like let's try to avoid these colors because there may be some issues with people being able to read the data that's there. So just taking that extra step to, co- communicate cross-functionally, not only down with your team, but across different teams as well, because it could also affect someone else that is not in a place where they feel comfortable to speak up. So again, bringing that human-centered approach to it, like it took me years to kind of find my voice in RevOps and then be able to kind of speak up for the things that I needed rather than sit there and struggle. So that is definitely something that I did, and over time that built a lot of
Yeah.
trust among my stakeholders, trust along with my teams. But like I said, this is going to not just be a conversation between Colette and myself. I want to make sure that we're bringing you all into it too. So I do have a quick poll that I would love for you guys to do. So I'm going to pull that up. Here we go. We're going to launch it right now. So it should pop up on your main screen. So it's how often does your organization actively incorporate empathy into RevOps processes? So um, it's a single choice. So choose which one best fits. And if you don't have a current organization that you're with, no problem. Go ahead and do the last organization you were with and how they approached empathy into RevOps processes. Ooh,
Good
right now we've got a
recommendation.
50-50 split.
Okay.
All right, and then I am going to go ahead and end the poll. All right, so you guys can see it. So everyone can see it. Okay, so 50-50 split. So sometimes we try, but it's inconsistent. And then we also have the response of rarely. We focus more on metrics and efficiency. So I want to, again, thank you for sharing that. And if you do have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat because we're going to, keep the conversation going and share kind of our best practices and our experiences as well. But we, again, want to get more from you so that we know how to tailor our responses to what you're actually facing today. All
Yeah,
right.
and as Ariel said, it's not just a conversation between us two. We want to definitely cater this to the folks that are on the call and cover. I mean, we can cover and have a discussion. Yeah, outside some of these questions as well. It's organic.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, Thank you for doing the poll. So a follow-up I do have, and yeah, Ariel, I think you can speak to this, especially as a
Mm,
career coach, consultant, and working with people out in the field. what are some of the biggest mistakes you see job seekers making when they're trying to break into RevOps? And does lacking empathy play into that?
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. So when we think of like breaking into RevOps, the start of the career, some of us have non-traditional backgrounds and don't quite understand what RevOps truly is. It is still evolving every single day. But a lot of people still think that revenue operations is just about data and systems. So they lead with technical skills. Oh, I don't have the skills to do X, Y, and Z, rather than thinking about transferable skills that will truly be helpful in your position in revenue operations. So it's being able to be the bridge between teams, being able to empathize with other, stakeholders and teams that you support. But realistically, honestly, I think people just overthink and wait too long. Um, and I'll just give you an example. One of my best hires came from a background in construction, and he used those transferable skills to connect the experience that he already had to what we needed. And that was super integral. And when we think about employers, for instance, um, when they lack empathy and get caught up in figuring out like the perfect hire for a role, they miss out on so much. And it's like the whole point of RevOps is to use diverse data sets to make informed decisions, to have happy customers and drive revenue. Like that's why we're here. So we're trying to really support those teams to drive the right behaviors, the right actions for the right results, right? So how can you achieve that? I'm trying to think like when we have RevOps folks that have similar backgrounds or are not quite diverse in their thinking, their understanding, their background, everyone will think the same. So that's not really kind of driving us to the world that we're actually in. And I want to just kind of give this little plug to everyone if you need a little permission. It is your unique lived experiences that bring forth empathy and results. So I want to say that I talk a lot with my clients, like, what is your superpower? Like, lean into that superpower. And it's not always about just kind of gaining more skills and things to your, I call it a treasure, your RevOps treasure chest. It's more about refining the ones that potentially you already have and how to do them better. To serve your team. So I feel like I did a long story long there, but go ahead,
No, this
Colin. I
is
would love your
great.
take on it too.
This is great. Ariel, yeah, I'm just listening. I like that explanation, the revenue ops treasure chest. And I know, um, and that's great to do personal development, get certifications, learn. But I think that also drives the point home, right? With technical skills, it is important, but you can learn these things. If you have a learning index, openness to learn, if you've done something related, you can apply it. I find the story here of your hire who was formerly in construction is completely fascinating. You don't
Mhm.
usually think of that.
Right.
My background before going into more of the sales ops, revenue operations type field, I was working more customer facing. So I have a background where I did insurance and like underwriting. I worked in banking in college, so I had that background, and those were transferable skills to be very in line and in alignment and empathize with my customer. In that case, it was an external customer. Now my customers are internal. But to the question about the air, with you and like you, I would say very similar words here, the technical aspects of the job. I think we can get a little bit hung up on that. And I can say personally, I haven't interviewed for a few years. I've been in my current role, but just as a general rule of thumb in RevOps, I see the focus on technical and it sometimes overshadows that human element. You can learn the technical elements. You can have the best dashboard, the best process creation, or have uh, be a genius in a certain program, but if you cannot communicate its value or find it in a way that solves for the pain points of your end stakeholders, it's not going to resonate. Let's take, for example, here's a good example, and this is a hypothetical example, and those questions in interviews when you're asked the STAR method to
Yeah.
give the
Yep.
situation. I think we've all heard that. I'm sure you coach people on it. And when I practiced for interviews in
Hmm.
the past, I leveraged it. Here's a good example. Let's say if you're a revenue operations person and you're telling the story about how you created a reporting dashboard, something to help, let's say your sales rep to track their activity with phone calls they're making, like outbound to potential clients or to their existing client base. You're trying to track that. What the gap here now, it shows, oh yes, technical skills, great. You could create this fantastic dashboard. But what I would want to know is, let's say a prospective interviewer, I would want to know deep dive in. How did you get there? Did you just simply create a new tool to display it better? Did you listen to your sales leadership and sales team to find out, is there a gap maybe in logging the results? Is that maybe why the existing reporting doesn't work? Uh, is there a process? Is it cumbersome to log the calls?
Hmm.
This is semi-hypothetical because it wasn't part of an interview question, but in a prior role, I did discover that it was quite cumbersome to mark the calls. So it didn't matter how fancy the dashboard we were going to develop. We didn't have the underlying data. And that was going to take empathizing and really listening and digging into the process underneath the human side,
Yep.
not just the technical aspect.
Yeah. And I want to add to that too, that, Paulette mentioned at the top of the call or our webinar that, executives want to see a 30,000-foot view, but you also have to understand some executives do want to see the details. And that how did you get there and being able to communicate that is so important and so critical. And being able to kind of in RevOps be the chameleon of how to change the way you communicate based on the type of stakeholders you're serving. So I had to learn how to whiteboard better and how to kind of, showcase what I'm saying in a visual form, and then how to, make it very concise for executives. So really thinking about those quote unquote soft skills that are really complementary to those technical skills that can be learned. Um, and again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We are just rocking and rolling here. I'm loving this conversation so far. But again, we want you guys to get as much out of this as possible. So that we're going to keep moving and grooving and on to
Yeah.
our next question. Yeah.
Yeah, Ariel, I think we have this one directed more towards you, and I can speak to it.
Hmm.
But you and what you do every day and working with uh, clients to elevate their careers, how do you help career changers demonstrate that they have the empathy needed for RevOps when they don't have the traditional experience that we think of?
Yeah, so a lot of it starts with the experiences they have already had, right? How have you helped someone in the past? And it can be something super simple, so we don't have to put any data or metrics behind it. We'll get to that when we work together. But how have you helped someone in the past? What helped transform their current state to their end state? And what was your involvement in that? So you're really thinking through the process of helping someone holistically, not necessarily in RevOps, because again, people can transfer into it. I'll go back to an example for myself. My career started out in finance. I thought I was going to be a CFO. That was my jam. I did my master's with an emphasis on financial management and entrepreneurship as well. But I said, there is something that I am missing. And I want to be able to help people with where they are going. And that means I need to have a seat at the table when these bright ideas are coming up from our executives, our leaders, our sales folks. So I kind of searched where's my tribe, if you will. And so one of the sales leaders at the time said, all right, you really don't do finance. You're more sales ops, maybe even rev ops. I'm like, what's that? What is that? So I looked into it. I found some communities, start networking with more people. And lo and behold, I'm like, RevOps is my jam. This is exactly where I need to be. I am the connector of all of these teams, and I am able to empathize because of my background going from finance to revenue operations to project and program management. I'm able to see kind of how things impact people and what kind of questions and things drive them. So in doing that, it wasn't like it just happened overnight. It did take a little time, but the ability to get there came because I was approachable. I was able to solve problems and I was open to lots of feedback. I did not take it personally. I'm like, if you're not telling me the information that I need to know, I don't know how to help you. And so I liken it to truly understanding your quote unquote customer, even if you are in revenue operations. So is your customer the executive team? Is it sales, post sales, or customer support, marketing, product, engineering, and truly understanding their pain points, understanding their perspective, like what motivates them, what are their drivers, the language they speak when they communicate, and then how best to communicate all of that in a 360 way to all of the other cross functional teams. It does take practice, so be patient with yourself. But here's a pro tip. If you like investigating things and enjoy viewing a challenge through like multiple angles, then you'll thrive in revenue operations. So I'll stop there and let Colette also share her experience on helping career changers demonstrate they have the empathy needed in RevOps.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thanks for the background on that and the pro tip. You know, I've mentioned a little bit earlier that my background was working customer facing, like in banking and doing underwriting. I did have a period though, when I talk about my decade in data analytics, roughly about the first 3 years of that, I was not RevOps, sales ops focused. However, I was working with sales teams. I was already doing quite a bit of what you would describe as sales ops. And at that time, I didn't know what sales ops or RevOps was. Much like you, Ariel, I had that similar experience of a conversation I had with somebody at work who was a contractor at the time. Hey, I'm thinking about building out a sales operations team. We could really use that. And my first question was, what is that? I had no idea. But when it came down to it was pulling on my existing experience where I could demonstrate, yes, I was empathizing with stakeholders. I was leveraging reporting to help tell a story.
Sure.
I was
Mhm.
working to determine processes. I was coordinating among different groups and stakeholders, marketing, finance, working with all these different aspects of the business. I realized I was most of the way there with those transferable skills,
Mhm.
even though I did not have that traditional title of sales operations for the role I was going into. So pull on your experience. And if you are doing a career change, revenue operations, sales, marketing operations, whatever it is, I, I mean, the advice that I always think of, and I've read this too, you don't have to be 100% there.
Mhm.
Don't let that dissuade you. You miss out, you can potentially miss out on opportunities. And I certainly would have in my career if I had let that stop me. I didn't have that 20%. Well, I gained that along the way.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
close enough. I do think we
Uh,
have another. Oh,
We do have
go ahead.
another poll, but to your point, Colette,
Yes.
I did want to kind of add the statistic there. So it's
Mm,
around 75% to 80% of folks who identify as women or a person of color typically don't go after the roles that they really feel qualified for if they don't meet 100% of the criteria that's listed on a job description. So I want to kind of pause there and like have you think about that. We don't need to be 100% qualified for the roles that we are looking to get into RevOps or otherwise. So don't let that deter you if you don't meet every single bullet point. It's about what we're talking about today, telling the story about your transferable skills, hard skills, soft skills, and how it directly relates to the job and what they're looking for as far as the job description. So I did want to kind of pause there and make sure that I clarified that. So still go for it, shoot your shot. You got that. And then to Colette's point, I do have another poll for us. So I wanted to ask, so let me go ahead and pull it up.
Thank you, Era, for
Okay,
getting the exact
of
statistic. That's the
course.
one I was thinking of, but
Yeah, yep, I
I
got
didn't
you.
have
I
the
got
exact
you.
number.
I got you. So we have our second poll. It says if you're looking to advance in revenue operations, what is your primary focus area. So again, this poll will have popped up on your main screen. I'll give us a little bit of time as we have the responses trickling in, but the choices are technical skills. So is it systems, tools, and dashboards? Again, soft skills, we talk about a lot of communication, empathy, and relationship building. Is it strategic thinking and business impact, cross-functional collaboration, or all of the above equally? So again, so we just wait maybe 10 more seconds to see if we get any more responses in. It's looking good, looking good. All right, so I'll go ahead and end the poll and you all can see the results. There we go.
Ah,
I know. So soft
we're in the right
skills.
place.
Uh-huh. Strategic thinking and business impact and all of the above equally. So we've got quite a spread there. But I'm glad we're actually leaning into those aspects that you want to develop in if that is your next step. And again, ask those questions. Do not be afraid. We want you to walk away with more information around whether it's soft skills, strategic thinking, or any of the above. You are in the right place. All right, so I'll go ahead
Yeah.
and stop sharing.
I just want to add one thing onto here too with the strategic thinking. That aspect too. Well, it didn't specifically label soft skills. I wrote about this just a couple weeks ago, how
Mhm,
strategic thinking in itself, it is not just logic or technical skills. This fits with the human piece as well, because if you are strategizing a plan, you're looking ahead for the year or the quarter and you're strategizing, we're going to implement this new system or we're going to create this new process. Well, you have to have the people buy-in element of that. And
mhm.
part of how you're going to get there is empathizing and understanding what makes them tick, what makes them say, no, I'm not
Yes.
comfortable with this new process. No, I'm not going to do it. I am happy to work on my post-it notes. Can't really see because it's blurred. I'm guilty of post-it notes, but I am generally an early adopter. You have to understand your audience. So strategy, yes, a big part is getting that plan together and having it sequentially done and ready and getting the contracts and budget and everything. But the human element, you cannot separate that. So
Mhm.
you're in the right place for that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I have an example. I was brought in to build CPQ from scratch a couple of times, two different organizations, but a couple of times, and they're like, "You've got 30 days, sorry, 90 days to do it, so one full quarter, and then we need to have this available and ready to go, and everyone's enabled for our largest, our forecasted to be largest revenue generating quarter ever." And so it's like no
Wow.
pressure, right? So I'm like, okay, what are the things that I need to do? It like Colette was saying, it leaning into empathy, saying this change is happening. I'm not doing this in a vacuum. I'm not doing this in a bubble. I want to take your feedback along with me. So as I'm thinking through every single component of this new tool that we're going to inevitably use all together, how can I make sure that the questions that you have are answered or addressed directly into the system? So that one was a huge one, but like, let's keep it going. There's a lot more we can share.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
to our next question, so we had, so how do you balance urgency and empathy when managing cross-functional requests or high pressure situations? I just mentioned one, but Colette, did you want me to start on this one?
I can go ahead and let's
Okay, all
bounce
right.
back to you because this is, being in the field day in and day out. I'm there, I'm working in it. Mary, of course, has a wealth of experience. By the way, that's amazing to do CPQ. Having just gone through a CPQ implementation, I know that's
Mm-hmm.
no easy feat, and my goodness, in 90 days.
Yes, yes.
Uh, I'll add that in. But the reality is high pressure is an aspect of revenue operations. It does occur at times, especially when you're getting towards end of quarter, end of month, or you have to report out results. A high level executive needs something by 9 a.m. the next day, and you find out late in the afternoon. It is a reality. And there are some things that you just have to hop on. You have to pivot, be heads down, and you have to get that data out. There is a lot of opportunity, though, as you're working in RevOps, where maybe there is a want or a need from your stakeholders, and it might be urgent to them, but there is the opportunity with building that relationship and building that trust
Hmm.
that you can space it out to be done in a manner and it's prioritized better for you and to get it done effectively and it still works out for them in the end. A technique that I usually have used, if I can't address something on the call, I will parking lot something like in a meeting or on a call. I like to make sure that they are heard. So I will recap it at the end of the meeting or call. I will allow the last 10 to 5 minutes just to recap. Okay, and we talked about this earlier, we talked about that. Here's an action item. And also building that trust. Follow through with what you do. Have that integrity. I have an example actually just today in a few hours. I am meeting with the team who about 4 months ago, I had one of those parking lot items. They wanted an automation in the process, and I could not deliver that to them with all the conflicting priorities. They agreed to wait on it graciously. And today we are talking with that team who
Yeah.
can help engineer that for them. We have that early this afternoon in just a few hours, Pacific time. So that's just an example. Follow through with what you're going to say, and you will have that ability and build that trust to make things less urgent and to listen and address their needs.
Yep.
Ariel, your experience.
Yeah, sure thing. And just to kind of dovetail off of what Colette is saying, it comes down to advocating for yourself, advocating for your team. So is that more budget, resources, advocating for time? I need more time to be able to get to this. And then potentially prioritization. So where does this request, fit in the line of all the things to do in revenue operations? And how will we plan to address your current pain point or challenge? And then, like she said, following up. I'll give an example. So just to kind of anchor us with the question, urgency and empathy, how do we manage both in high pressure situations? So if your current company is on the fiscal calendar, quarter end is upon us. And um, I usually, when I was back in tech, would get more of these requests as the end of month or end of quarter would approach. And sales is so close to meeting their quarterly goal, like right there. So then, we have, as investigators that are like, if I shift the data or this dashboard or this report a little bit, then my numbers will look a little bit better to the stakeholders. So I've heard plenty of times I need another dashboard or I created my own report that I'll use that is more accurate. And so when we hear these things, you're like, oh no, we're trying to centralize. We're not trying to have, data in a silo or things that are not quite qualified to be, included in this forecasting, this dashboard. I guess that's my son who agrees. Like we don't want all of these erroneous things to be included when we're supposed to think about data and deliverables from a holistic point of view. Um, and I will mention, kind of stop and say, in those moments, like don't rush to be reactive. You need to pause and seek to understand, what am I missing? Where did we go wrong? Because if we were using the same, report dashboard for the last quarter, what happened? What changed? Or is there just something missing? And potentially there's some miscommunication from other folks on the team, so that it needs to be included, and it could be just literally changing the stage of an opportunity, something very small. So instead of creating something that do really digging in to figure out how can you solve the problem in the most effective and efficient way. So the one thing I used to do too is start with a definition, like again, what are we defining? As far as like this KPI, how are we prioritizing and creating alignment, and then measuring and communicating the progress to get to a resolution. And so that's what I call visibility in revenue operations. You should be able to tell the story, show the impact behind the work that you do. So don't ever get caught in
Absolutely.
um, don't get making my hard work speak for itself. You've got to speak up for it. So that's the start to showcase that impact. Okay, so let's see how we're doing on time. I think we're good for one more
One more.
question. Yeah. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And our next one really ties into just what you were talking about, Erin. It's a really good segue. And this is about what advice would you give to someone in a behind the scenes RevOps role who wants to lead with more influence and intention? I can go first, or if you want
Okay,
to
yeah, for
piggyback off of
sure.
what you
For sure.
were,
Yeah,
yeah,
go right ahead.
yeah. So, I mean, it's really piggybacks off of what Ariel was just saying about behind the scenes. And I want to clarify here, lead, when I'm talking about lead, I'm not talking about like a title of manager, senior director, et cetera. I'm talking about just leading in your role, being a person who is looked upon as an expert, a SME, if you want to say it, a tech lead, whatever else, a go-to person. Like, let's be honest, I mean, RevOps it can be a thankless job, right? You know your value. You know what you do. You know you're busy. You know when you're online and you're working late or you're triple booked for an hour because everybody. I actually had a half hour slot today and I had to make a decision. So it does happen.
Mhm.
But the reality is part of it, even when you have all this work, not everybody is going to know what you're working on. And it's not just about work or being busy. It's about the impact that you are having behind the scenes. Sometimes it, it's not about bragging, it's about being open about what you're doing. Sometimes you have to talk about it. You have to talk about the different parties collaborated with, or the different steps that were taken, or the level of effort and recognizing out in public, perhaps the people you collaborated with. You have to be upfront about it because if think about it this way, if you are not there tomorrow in your role or your entire team, the teams that rely on you, could they continue to run as they do today? Probably not in your absence, yeah, maybe for a day or two. They wonder, oh, is someone out on vacation or what happened? Uh, but yeah, eventually things they would not operate as efficiently and as well as they are today with all of your hard work that you are doing in the background. So be more vocal about it. Do not stay behind the curtain and the shadows. Be open.
Mhm.
It's not about losing your humility or bragging. Show your value. And you can, and part of that too, there actually is an aspect of empathy with that because you are showing how you have solved their problems or how you have made their life easier for them. You're empathizing, you're showing care. So
Mhm.
don't stay shy about it.
Yeah.
That's what I recommend. Ariel,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I would say the best advice I could give to someone behind the scenes, I would say start by owning your value. Being able to connect the dots and people is a leadership skill. So don't feel like because you're doing a lot of things on the back end that is helping everyone's lives run a little bit smoother in their day to day that it's not important. There is value there. A statistic or a stat that I have is that we will spend, in our careers over 90,000 hours in our
Wow.
career. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of impact. That's a lot of value. And you need to be able to showcase that. And the way that you do that is understanding your strengths and your superpowers. So those skills that you lead with, the soft skills, the hard skills, transferable skills, lean into those things and knowing that RevOps is more than just fancy systems and tools and dashboards. It truly is the center of excellence. Like you are culminating all of this data and these teams and collaborating so that we are moving forward together to a revenue goal, but ultimately impact for our customers, right? And so um, I also want to give the advice to like take time to truly understand the teams you serve. So whether it's listening and learning more, like get in there on the tools that they're using. Like see if you have any issues using it and you're like, oh, that really does suck, or I really need to think that. And being able to say, you know what, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to re-strategize because this makes more sense than what we originally thought. And being able to go back to that and refine your strategy. Um, Again, continue to build very strong relationships that align directly with your signature move or your strengths and superpowers. I will lean into one of my signature moves or superpowers. I was known for a good walk and talk. Let's get our steps in and let's try to figure out this problem.
Love that.
It
Love
takes
that. Get
people
my
like, mhm, yeah, right. Let's figure it out. Like, let's have some fun with it, and enjoy the time that we're trying to work through all of these challenges together. It's not a silo. We are a team, and just keeping that kind of at the forefront. And the everyday work that you do. So we do have a question.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
excited.
Yes, and we
Yeah,
are
okay.
right on schedule here because you
We
said like
are.
quarter after the hour, we were going to start to take in questions. So
Yeah.
excellent. Well, Javid, so
Okay.
your question is ops runs 24/7 and often goes unnoticed. Yes, it does. I agree. Uh, as Ariel mentioned, how can we make sure even small operational wins get recognized? My first take on this is not just being vocal about it, but outlining, documenting what you are working on, having a
Mhm,
living record of it. I've had the experience, it's Friday afternoon and I'm just wondering, where did my week go? Oh my gosh, it's the end of the week and I feel like I'm leaving all these things on the table. There's a few techniques that I like to use. Number one, I have the rule just in my own on my own team, and I like to do. We do have an internal ticketing system that we keep track of tasks,
mhm,
projects, whatever we do, even tickets coming in. If it's going to take me more than 5 minutes, I will file a ticket, even on somebody's
mhm,
behalf, because I
mhm,
like to keep the record. And then that helps me at the end of the week to be able to see, oh gosh, I spent about 20% of my time here, 40% here. And when I'm talking with my manager or any of the stakeholders, it helps to reprioritize my time. And I have that record of it. The second thing, too, if you're working on an effort that perhaps has a lot of small steps. I had this recently where I was working it was about a 7 weeks intensive where we were trying to get
mhm.
reporting up and running after CPQ went live. If you're, I'm sure you've had that experience. Everything
Yes.
completely changes, everything's broken, and you're like, oh my God. There's steps involved. It's not just
Mhm,
rebuild a report, but we have to make the decisions. Okay, who are the new stakeholders? What do we need to display? Who does this work for the stakeholders who are receiving it? Okay, we need to meet with this person. We got to make sure this product, etc. You get the idea.
mhm,
I provided to the key stakeholders of the organization in that business vertical, there are about 30 plus people, where they could see transparently our wins for the week and then the things on the horizon. And I had a timeline of what we were working on. I sent that out on Fridays at the end of the week, and that was just limited to the 7 week period. Did it have every single granular detail? No, but it did give the opportunity to show, yes, we are making progress, things are moving, and let's celebrate together.
Yeah, I have some advice on that as well. And keep dropping your questions in the chat, y'all. I've also included the links to connect with us. So both myself and Colette, whether you want to find us on LinkedIn, check out more free content on YouTube or Substack, all of that information is there. And even if you need specific help with your career and your strategy, you can connect with me. And there's a free introductory consultation as well that is available. I am looking to elevate so many people in RevOps, y'all. I'm not even playing. I have a goal of 1,000 people this year. Help me get there,
Yes.
please, please. But back to the question at hand. I I recognize that a lot of my RevOps teams and some cross-functional team members, we like to be kind of behind the scene. We don't like the public recognition, but I did it anyway. And so I did it depending on the person, if they would kind of be okay with it. But, bringing donuts to the office and say, as a team, we really got through this. This is a little token of appreciation. We got there. Or, we did a lot of boba. That was a huge hit, or just something very small. Like I had one person on my team who loved Costco pizza, and at the time we were like, within a 10-minute walk of Costco. I'm like, hey, here's $10, go get some Costco pizza. Like that's your thing, and he loved it. Like that was what he enjoyed. So I'm like, I listen to you, I hear you. Um, so that is more on a team side of things. I also gave recognition publicly as well, because if it weren't for my team and their hard work, being able to stay up late and run tests or work on weekends or holidays so that we can meet these very, very tough deadlines, I wouldn't have gotten the success that I had in my career, nor they would have had it as well. And so I wanted the company to understand what it took to get us here. Like CPQ does not typically happen in 30 days with full enablement, honey. Like that is huge. At the all hands, that was a way that I was able to like ask my executives, can we have just a spotlight So for some top performers, and that became a thing that we did all hands. Like each executive team would pick like a person of the quarter who went, above and beyond, and we would recognize one person from every cross-functional team. So that's how it really trickled. Started with my small request, we made it huge. So that people know and understand the impact of what that meant. And then more recognition as well. There was a point in time where I reported into the CRO, and I said, "Hey, there's President's Club. I know traditionally RevOps is not part of President's Club, but is there something we can do, like some type of recognition, giving them an award or something?" And that's how we were able to do it as well. And so that really spoke volumes to the person not only receiving the recognition but also internally, with the company, and being able to say like, hey, this person really stepped up to help us in this capacity, the human, not just the
Yeah.
tools. The human stepped up to do exponential work, and this is the result of it. Like we can sleep a little easier, we don't have to fret about forecasting, we can go on to the next problem that we're having in RevOps and keep it moving. And so that is, to your point, around the question, how to get those operational wins recognized. And then we also in Slack, y'all, if y'all are using some type of internal messaging and directory, we encourage other employees to just spotlight like, hey, thanks so much for like cranking out
Mm,
this approval, overnight because I needed it because my client, da 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 da, you know. And so that was a way for people to regularly share wins and high fives virtually, even if you're not in the office or work at a team where you're able to see each other face to face for those donut moments. Um, yeah, so just making sure that it's visible. And then guess what? The executives started to go into that wins channel. Like it wasn't like the opportunity wins, it was like more internal success wins, to know what people are actually doing. Like, wow, I really get it. I understand the impact and the value that they're bringing. Okay. Yes. So thank you both. Insightful. On a lighter note, pizza and donuts would be great. Yes,
nice.
pizza and
Yeah,
donuts.
pizza does sound good. It'll be lunch in about an hour here
Right, right. Um,
on our time
we
zone.
we still have some time. So if
Okay.
anyone has a question, if you want to come off mute, or we can talk about it live, go right ahead. Don't be shy.
For the chat as well. And hello, Terrence.
Hi,
So you hop
Terrence.
on. Hello.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
I came a little bit late, but I appreciate you all, just for the conversation. And the question that I've been, keeping track of a lot of the developments with AI and how that has ultimately impacted job security as well as raised some interesting opportunities in terms of integrating the tool into, revenue operation strategies, for example. Do you all have any initial thoughts on vibe coding as a concept and how that maybe is, the lack of sort of formality around, the concept and how that ultimately impacts the way that we should be treating our tools and our interactions?
Yeah. I do, and I know we have just a few minutes here. It's a really great question because AI is all the buzz right now. I will say there's a lot of hype. There
Yes.
also is some real grounded, I mean, aspects of it we have to look into, whether it's going to benefit us or perhaps to add more complication. I will say it'll be later this year. I'm not going to get into detail now. I'll be posting something on LinkedIn that goes more in depth with my thoughts, specifically around empathy and AI. Talked about it extensively, but short version, I think with RevOps, we have to look beyond the hype and see the tools that actually solve our problems. Our our teams, especially our stakeholders, they're going to be bombarded right now. There's so many tools coming out onto the market, the shiny object, and we have to help ground in looking, okay, does this solve an underlying problem? Is it within our scope of budget? Will it actually help us save time, our energy, so we can do some cognitive offloading to focus more in other areas? The thing that it is not going to replace, and again, I get into this more detail later, but the thing it's not going to replace is that aspect of humanizing the RevOps aspect. We have to think I mentioned it very early on about like territory design. When you're putting up like a territory that impacts somebody traveling, how often they get to see their family when they're, out and about, out on the road, their scheduling, depending on the territory we give them, the geographic location. And AI can certainly help optimize for that, but that's an aspect too where you don't want to defer completely to AI. You need to have that human element, understanding their needs, understanding mm, the human element. That's just an example. So, in summary, not get caught up in the hype. Think of the real problem solving aspects, and also knowing that it's not going to replace that human aspect of our jobs.
Yeah, that was a
So,
great question, Terrence, for
yeah,
sure. And
really
Colette,
good.
thank you for chiming in on that one. What I'll add to that is, and I kind of wrote it down and I put it, triple underline is guardrails and boundaries. So we can, implement AI and have it help us, but like, what are the guardrails? What are the boundaries that we're also going to place with it? Because we don't want to just set this up and let it loose and then all hell breaks loose, like that's, that makes my heart just kind of cringe just thinking about it. And then I wanted to also make sure that I included that longevity of this AI tool. So Colette talked about, is it actually solving a problem? Can it grow with you? Is it solving a today problem or it's solving tomorrow's problem? And then can it grow and scale with you? Because otherwise, which we hate to do in RevOps, is rip and replace things. And so that, it's a nightmare and someone's unhappy. I have to, move from this. And now I have to do change management and learn that. So really thinking about those key aspects, both from what Colette and I were saying. So thinking about the guardrails, the boundaries, the human-centered aspect of it, who's actually going to be checking these things when it comes to AI, the longevity of it, as well as like, how much of a headache is this going to be potentially in the future if it doesn't grow with us or doesn't solve a future problem. So thank you again, Terrence. And we are coming up right on time. Any last questions we can get? Something you've been sitting on and you're like, I'm not sure, this is your time. Okay, so you can drop it in the chat if you need to. You can go ahead and come off mute. So I just want to make sure that I give all of you a thank you. First of all, first and foremost to Colette, I so appreciate all of your responses and like your insight and your expertise around empathy and bringing that into revenue operations. I want to thank all the attendings here for investing your time to learn about humanizing revenue operations. We definitely look forward to keeping in touch virtually or in real life. So there's ways to get to us both. I dropped it in the chat. There's links to follow us on LinkedIn, see Colette's Substack, as well as schedule a career strategy session with me if you need to, so that we can uncover any challenges that you're having currently in your career, whether you're trying to find a new job or be promoted within. Let me see if there's any other goodies. Um, yeah, so I will just keep with the video that I had in the beginning. So if you didn't see the chat or you maybe are kind of working multi-screens, I'm going to go ahead and share one more time and just kind of give yourselves a round of applause for being able to show up for yourselves today and think about how we can do things a little bit better and bolder in RevOps.
Thank you, Ariel, for having me on, and everybody for joining today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we hope to see you all soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, got a chat there. Yes, thank you. Appreciate the conversation as well. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Okay.